Hi, Mike James. Thanks for joining me for Armor of God on the Web. What I want to talk about today is religion's sudden decline. Religion's sudden decline. And when we're talking about the United States, that would mean Christianity's sudden decline in the United States. But let me get to this subject of religion's sudden decline. I read a book by a fellow named Ronald Inglehart. He's a professor at the University of Michigan, and he wrote a book by that same title. And what he's proposing in that book is that in most of the world today, religion is declining. He looks at about 100 countries which make up 90% of the population of the world. And he looks at survey data from all of these countries over a number of many years, and he's coming to the conclusion that religion is on the downturn in most of these countries, maybe about 75% of these countries. And most of these countries are the economically well-off countries, countries like Western European countries, the United States, Canada, China, South Korea, Japan. In places where this is not happening, where religion is not declining, we're talking about places that have a Muslim majority population. We're talking about African countries. We're talking about Latin American, South American countries, and interestingly enough, former communist countries in Eastern Europe. Religion seems to still be holding the form in those particular places. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, for one reason, it's a big deal because since 2007, the country that has been decreasing the most in the area of religion is the United States. The United States is declining more than any other country with religion's importance within the country. And I want to show you a little graphic here. I'm going to put it up on the screen, and if you look at my book cover here, you'll notice this red line that's moving from this side of the screen where my finger is to the other side of the screen. And to you, that would be in a left to right movement. And you'll notice that the red line is up high. This is about 1937 on this side of the screen, the left side to you. And moving over to the right side of the screen, you'll notice how this red line dips. That's about the 60s and 70s, and then it goes down dramatically when we get into the year 2000 and up until today. The point of this book cover is showing you the dramatic decline of religion in the United States. And again, what is the primary religion in the United States? There's no doubt that it is Christianity. So what does this mean if Christianity is declining in the United States, declining in many of these other countries? Well, here's the thesis of the book, that when religion begins to decline, what that means is that pro-fertility norms begin to go by the wayside and individual choice norms come to the forefront. Now, why is that a problem? Let's think about that for a minute. I'm going to go over what some of the individual choice norms are, and to understand what the pro-fertility norms are, just think of the opposite of what I'm describing here. So this is what's coming to the forefront as far as norms are concerned in many of these countries that are secularizing. Gender equality. There aren't differences between males and females. It's all the same thing. Tolerance of divorce, abortion, homosexuality, transgenderism. These are what we call individual choice norms, and they're becoming more popular in about 75% of the world today. Now, why are these individual choice norms becoming more popular in most of the world today? The theory that Inglehart brings forward is that when security goes up within a country, whether it's health security, people are living longer, they have more access to health care, whether it's economic security, people's standard of living has increased, they're making more money. When people are more secure, they're likely not to care as much about religion. And think about that from an agrarian culture, say in places in Africa or in Latin or South America. What do you need? You need lots of children to help you with that farm that you may have, or to grow crops, or to bring in crops. So there is some truth to this idea, some logic to this idea. There may be other reasons why religion is diminishing, but this makes some logical sense as connecting to why religion is diminishing. Now, get these stats on religion. These are going to blow your mind. In 1894 to 1903, people that were born between 1894 and 1903, when they were asked the question, how important is God in your life? 42% said God was very important in their life. Now let's take that same question and let's ask it to people who were born 100 years later, from 1994 to 2003. Those people are now becoming adults, and we are asking them this question, and get what they're saying. How important is God in your life? Only 11% of those people are saying God is very important in their life. That's a dramatic decline. You can see the world is moving in a particular direction when it comes to the decline of religion. Again, it's in mostly high-income countries, but that makes up about 75% of the world now. Many of the majority Muslim countries continue to stick with those pro-fertility norms, as do some of the former communist countries in Eastern Asia. But here's the major issue with this whole theory. A tipping point has been reached. What do I mean by a tipping point? If you read the book by Malcolm Gladwell, which talks about the tipping point, ideas take off like wildfire and don't return. They don't come back to the previous way a society existed when a tipping point is reached. According to Engelhardt in his book, a tipping point has been reached with countries like Sweden, Finland, Norway. Those countries reached a tipping point in about 1990, from which they have not returned. Religion has been declining in those particular countries. And what does Engelhardt say about the United States? He says that the tipping point for the United States has been reached, and it was reached in 1993. People being born from 1993 to the present day, that's when America reached the tipping point with this survey data, with this information that religion has been declining and declining. And again, when you reach the tipping point, there's no going back. We aren't going to return to our traditionalist society that many people are familiar with in the baby boomer generation. Now, let me give you some other stats. Listen to this. In 1982, 52% of U.S. citizens said that God was very important in their lives. In 2017, what did humans say in the United States? They said 23% of us feel God is very important. In 1982 in the United States, 83% felt they were religious people. In 2017, that number was down to 55%. In 1982 in the U.S., 16% of us said we never or almost never go to a church service. In 2017, that number is 35%, saying they never or almost never go to a church service. What are the ramifications of this? I'm going to show you a scripture in 1 Kings chapter 11 and verse 33. Israel was God's nation. God told them, listen to me or you're going to be in trouble. And over a long period of time, Israel went back and forth in listening to God until it became beyond a tipping point, and Israel moved into totally disregarding God. When that tipping point was reached for Israel, God brought the hammer down. He tore the kingdom apart and later destroyed the northern kingdom of Israel by the Assyrians, and a couple hundred years later, the kingdom of Judah was destroyed by God. We read it here in 1 Kings 11 and verse 33. Because they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, and Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in my eyes, and to keep my statutes and my judgments, as David his father did. Once that happens, God is going to end that particular society. And when I look at the United States today, the handwriting is on the wall. When we look at the idolatry in this nation, we are going after other gods than the biblical God that Christianity claims as their own. We see that goes against God's admonition in Exodus chapter 20 and verse 3. We have legalized homosexual marriage, and we see that God speaks against that in Leviticus 18 and verse 22, in Leviticus 20 and verse 13, in the book of Romans chapter 1. We see that we are killing our young children through abortion. And what does God say in His Word? I created you in the image of God. God knows us in the womb, He tells us in Jeremiah chapter 1 and verse 5, and we are going against God in that area. We are telling God that we're not sure if we're men or women. Transgenderism is growing in the United States. Bisexuality is growing in the United States, and God says not to do those things in His Word. Divorce, cohabitation, they aren't frowned upon anymore. People believe that is the norm today in the United States. So because of all these things, I see a reckoning coming for the United States. If we don't wake up, if we don't come back to God, God will bring down this nation just like He brought down the ancient Israelites. I want you to get more information on this subject. I've done a full-length sermon on this subject called The Decline of Religion. You can receive it if you go to our website at www.cgi.org. That's www.cgi.org. If you go right under the media menu heading and look under sermons, you will find The Decline of Religion, or you can order it by sending us an email. Send that email to info@cgi.org. That's info@cgi.org. Ask for the CD, The Decline of Religion by Mike James, and we'll send it to you free of charge. Don't forget, you can also download that CD at the CGI Digital Network app. You can get that app free of charge at the Google, Amazon, or Apple App Store. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next time on Armor of God on the Web.
The Church of God International would like to introduce the availability of a new app designed for your convenience. Download it now.